But I wanted to make sure everyone has a moment to grab some lunch, grab something to eat. Know that the exit, in case there's an earthquake or another emergency, is back that way. There are bathrooms to the left and the right behind you. Men's is on this right, my right, your left, and the women's on the other side. We'll have a pair of speakers. We'll have time for Q&A. We'll have a breakout session at the end. So, just that brief bit of logistics. Also want to make sure that, so that everybody can focus on the event. If you need to take a call, please step outside. There's a lovely patio where you can take whatever call you need to. But if you're going to be inside with your phone, please set your phaser to stun so that you're not disrupted by buzzes and rings. Melanie, did you want to come and say anything about the Clean Power Alliance incubator workshop, and then we'll bring Ted up?
Margaret. So thank you everyone for coming. This workshop is part of the Sustainable Energy Incubator program that will be running from this year to the next year. The Sustainable Energy Incubator is an effort to build engagement and capacity of CPA member agencies, staff, board members, and stakeholders in the LA and Ventura counties to address emerging energy issues through these educational workshops on a quarterly basis, an online education center on the website, and direct technical assistance support for member agencies. The technical support will be through a support line where the local government commission will be providing individualized assistance to help member agencies design energy initiatives, identify funding tools, and other resources that they may need to start up a clean power program or project. So I just wanted to give an update on that. If you have any questions on the incubator after the workshop, please feel free to come up to me or Margaret, or to any of the CPA staff, Jennifer, Christian, and Ted, with any of your questions. And with that said, I'd like to bring up Ted to the front to provide welcome remarks.
To the local government commission for all of the sort of expertise and work that you bring to organizing these quarterly series. So yes, this is the first of our planned quarterly Sustainable Energy Incubator series. Really, actually, the idea of this came out of this interest by our board and member agency staff of like, hey, we're running an energy company now. We have these broad goals. We got to learn more about what's going on in the industry. And so our desire through all of this is to provide an educational forum for our customers, for our stakeholders, and for our member agencies. A couple of quick notes. It is being live streamed. We have a very large territory. But one of the things that was important to me and is part of our sort of contract in this is that these workshops are also required educational materials for our call center agents. So if you may know, we have a call center out in Irwindale that was specifically built, set up for our for Clean Power Alliance with 60. The first 60 jobs we created, in addition to my job, was for call center agents, their union rep, good health care, living wage, but our desire is that after we get through this enrollment, is that those call center reps really become people who can educate customers around their energy choices and their energy options. So that's one of the reasons it's being recorded, so that folks will have that. I also want to recognize a couple of folks, Shote, who's from City of Arcadia on our board, and then Angus Simmons and Robert Parkhurst and Richard, Tom, who are all members of our community advisory committee. So Angus and Richard and Robert Sweat, and Robert's right there. So thank you for all coming out. They've been doing a really good job as we enroll customers. I think the last thing I just want to note is that you're going to hear from Panama, from the Building Decarbonization Coalition. I've known Panama for, I don't know, 16 years, 17 years, something like that. Back when he was helping run the California Conservation Corps. And Panama and I have crossed paths so many times in different roles, and whenever he sets his mind to be doing something, it usually is going to get done, or at least cause some havoc. And so you've taken on this really interesting role and in pushing an area that's really, really, really important. Finally, before we get started with the actual program, I did want to ask Kristen Torres from the LA County Sustainability Office to come up and just say a couple of words, because a lot of what you're going to hear about today, like, they're going to push to implement with the LA County Sustainability Plan. And so you're going to hear from Garrett in the city of Santa Monica, where they have plans. But I think it's exciting to get a bit of a preview from LA County that can really play a lead role in this area. So, Kristen.
Thanks, Ted. Thanks, CPA. Thanks, Local Government Commission. As Ted said, I'm Kristen Torres calling at the LA County Chief Sustainability Office. I was not as involved as our Chief Sustainability Officer, Barry Giroux, who many of you probably know, has been involved really from day one in clean power lines. But as Ted said, we're working on an initiative called Our County to develop the LA County's first regional sustainability plan that's comprehensive. So we're going to be talking about building, we're going to be talking about electrification, we're going to be talking about transportation, we're going to be talking about housing, public health, just as some example areas that we're going to consider together as that regional targets that we alone cannot achieve, that we're going to require the whole of the 88 LA cities. I know we have some Ventura folks in the house too. But we are thinking at this scale that really hasn't been attempted before. So I have Alex Meeting, who's also on our team here, could also answer any questions you might have about what we're trying to achieve. But we are trying to achieve engagement of the public sector, private sector, and the nonprofit space. So if you participated in any of our workshops, and I know we have some county staff folks here who have, we are very excited about trying this approach of really trying to be intersectional about achieving sustainability. And quite ambitious. So we're going to need your help in achieving that. And one of our strategies, we're considering about 125 actions. One of them that we're considering is building electrification. So that's sort of the next year, and I think wanting to have all of your engagement as we move forward with the final plan. Releasing a draft in April, and we'll take something to the board of supervisors this summer for adoption. So we're happy to be here today, and looking forward to learning some more about all this great work.
Okay, now it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage our first of two speakers. These first two folks are going to be helping set the stage. What's going on in this big wild world of building decarbonization, and why it's important, and what we can do about it. So you heard a little bit about Panama. I'm just going to get out of the way.
All right, this on, wonderful. Thank you for having me. For those I haven't met, yes, my name is Pamela. That is what we did to children in Humboldt County in the 1970s. So I am exaggerating and that the whole country is watching what you're doing here at CPA. We have really lost the trust and the partnership that is the opportunity between power providers and communities. And the CPA and the CCAs in California are really charting a path for how to rebuild that trust and really search out for those opportunities. So it's an honor to be here as your first incubator, or am I the egg, or incubatee, I'm not sure of the language, but it is an honor to be here before you to talk about this issue. I am the director of an organization called the Building Decarbonization Coalition. We are a 70-member coalition of energy providers like LEDWP in Southern California, Edison, and a number of CCAs, manufacturers. We have 95% of the market share for hot water heater manufacturers in North America, 40% of the HVAC manufacturers. Wonderful local governments like LA City, San Jose, a number of advocates, builders, design, and construction community. I want to thank REAM, an Integral Local Government Commission, who are here as members of the coalition. We welcome any of you to come in if you want to work on policy and market solutions to be able to fully eliminate greenhouse gas emissions from the built environment. And that's what we do at the coalition, is we're trying to get our building emissions in the state of California completely zeroed out by 2045. 2045 is the date that we've all set to achieve carbon neutrality for the state of California, and so buildings have a critical role in helping us achieve that. And we're focusing on buildings because from an end-use perspective, from the energy that goes into powering buildings, buildings represent about 25% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the state of California. About half coming from gas, as represented by this yellow line right here, and about half coming from electricity right here, and then a little bit more coming from refrigerant loss from our heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And we're doing a pretty good job on the electricity. So the electricity system is getting really, really good. For all of our renewable energy, we're going to be at 50% renewable on the California grid next year. And so electric power is doing fantastic. Check out transportation. What happened in 2014, 2015 in transportation? Uber. That's the Uber bump right there. And significantly more transportation coming, single vehicles. But electricity was doing fantastic. And so that creates an opportunity for us to start to move more and more of our buildings over to using more of that clean electricity. And when you look at it from, say, an end-use perspective, just the greenhouse gases that come from burning gas in our buildings, it represents between residential and commercial about 12% of our overall emissions in the state. Look at our in-state electricity, only 10%. Right now, we have more climate pollution coming from our building stock than our entire fleet of power plants here in California. We burn more gas in our fleet of buildings than we do in our power plants here in California at this point. And so gas is going to be an absolutely critical issue for us if we're going to achieve any of our goals. And in California, we use about 95% of that gas in 4 different areas: heating our space, heating our water, cooking our food, and about 50% of us have gas dryers. Who has a gas clothes dryer? Raise your hand. No shame here. All right, fantastic. So very simply, decarbonization and electrification is using that clean electricity, whether it's from your roof or whether it's coming from the grid, and using technologies to replace those gas appliances with high-efficient electric appliances to heat our lifestyles, heat our food, heat our clothes. And so I'll run through some of the reasons why we might actually want to do this. The first one is cost. I don't know if you know, but in California, we have a housing crisis right now. We're about 48 in affordability for housing, and gas is playing a critical role in that. The infrastructure for a building a new home in California, the cost of gas infrastructure to that home is somewhere between $6,000 and $15,000 to be able to run that gas infrastructure to a home. Then the plumbing inside the home can be anywhere from $750 to about $2,400. And the venting necessary is anywhere from about $250 to just under $1,000. Now, every year, the National Association of Home Builders puts out a report called Price Down. And look at every state in the 300 major metropolitan areas of the country, and look at what does the additional expense of $1,000 due to the affordability of the house. And how many families are priced out of being able to afford a house by adding $1,000 onto the price of that house? And for California last year, they found that for every $1,000 in house price increase, 15,000 families are priced out of the ability to afford a house. And so, say about $7,000 for gas infrastructure for a home in California at 15,000 families, that's about 105,000 families that are priced out of the ability to afford a house in California because of gas infrastructure. And that's only in case the gas infrastructure is an option rather than a necessity. And what I think you're going to hear today is it truly is an option. And it's an option that if we're serious about our housing crisis in California, we can't afford to be pricing these families out of an ability to afford. So you might ask, well, the appliance is more expensive. Is this crazy Star Trek technology that I have to talk to through Alexa or something? Absolutely not. California Building Industry Association last year worked with Navigate to put out a big report on building electrification. What they found is that electric appliances are similar or lower cost than highly efficient gas appliances, and that there's significant greenhouse gas emission savings from going all electric for either a new house or a retrofit. So the BIA is on board. Good news. And you might ask about commercial buildings. Well, the University of California has adopted a carbon neutrality by 2025 goal, and hired Point Energy, one of the top firms looking at commercial buildings, to look at what is it going to cost to build carbon neutral buildings, meaning buildings that are completely powered by renewable energy resources. And what they found, looking at 3 different types of buildings, looking at academic buildings, which are basically you could substitute for office buildings, for gas and electric, or all electric, residential towers, gas and electric, or all electric, or laboratories. And what they found was that a combination of capital costs and operating costs, that all electric was either at the same price or cheaper than the gas and electric buildings. And so from a cost perspective, there's really no reason at this point to not be building all electric. Well, how about that? Right now in California, 15% of our families live in energy poverty. That means they spend over 10% of their income on their utility bills. Utility bills are the #1 reason why people take out payday loans in California and across this nation. And in large part, it's due to variability. This is the last 3 years of natural gas prices in California. Sorry about the fuzziness, it's not my chart. And it shows that variability. It shows how it can be as low as $2 a million metric BTU, all the way up to $8, and everywhere in between. And so what this means is that families are having to have wildly fluctuating utility bills as the price fluctuates. Why is it so fluctuating? Well, it's because we don't really produce any of our own gas. We import 85% of the gas that we use here in California. And so when you have these polar vortexes, or you have extreme weather events in the rest of the country, we're suddenly competing for that same natural gas with other communities. It's nothing that we did or our utilities did in California. It's a simple matter of we only produce 50% of the gas that we use here in California. And so it's a pure competition situation. This is going to be exacerbated in your territory any day now. The Southern California Gas Company has a general rate case they filed in December of 2017 with the PUC. It's going to be approved any day now. They're asking for a 45% increase in rates over the next 3 years for gas delivery within the Southern California region. Now compare that to electricity. And with electricity, this is the price of electricity for California from about 2000 all the way up to about 2015. And what you see is very little variability, little ups and downs, but we do a much better job about keeping the price of electricity consistent and therefore easier for families to plan and much more equitable to be able to power our lifestyles than natural gas. And so what we're looking at is how do we replace our heating systems with technology that's largely heat pumps. And heat pumps can be very mysterious and therefore scary to folks, but very simply, it's instead of burning a fire in your home, instead of using gas to burn fire in your home,
you are actually taking heat from the environment, compressing it, using that heat in order to heat either water or heat space, or take heat out of a space and make it cool. How many of you have refrigerators in your house? Raise your hands. All right, you're using heat pump technology there. Have you ever put your hand behind your refrigerator? It's warm. It's because it's taking the warmth out of your refrigerator and it's expelling it to the environment. Heat pump technology works exactly the same way. And so we can use that not only to keep our food cold, but to also heat and cool our lifestyles, our water, and our space. Ted tells me that the membership of the Clean Power Alliance is particularly concerned about health. And what we're finding increasingly is that natural gas has very significant both indoor and outdoor air quality impacts. This is a slide I'm not supposed to show you. I can't tell you who it's from. It's going to be released later this year. What this looks at PM 2.5 sources in January in Southern California. And the darker the colors, as it gets to blue and red, the more PM10 concentrations are coming from that source. And you can see the two largest for January for your territory are buildings and other anthropological. This is mostly solvents, fires, roads, and the like. But buildings not only are the second most significant, but also the most significant from an opportunity to reduce. It's incredibly hard to reduce the solvents, incredibly hard to reduce the fires, but buildings are some of our best opportunities to reduce PM 2.5 by replacing your gas technology with electric. Now, I was watching the body language in the room, and about my third slide, after you crossed your arms and sat back, as you said, this is all good, I care about my kids' future, I want to fight climate change, but I just heard you say stove, and there's no way I'm going to give up my gas stove. And so let's talk about the elephant in the room of the stoves. So at the bottom of the screen, there's a title of a report put out by Lawrence Berkeley National Labs. They have a great group of scientists working on stoves and fuel hoods and indoor air quality emissions from stoves. And what they found in this 2014 study is they modeled 6,000 homes in Southern California, your territory, and they looked at what are the indoor air quality impacts of cooking with gas. And what they found is that for nitrous oxides, one of the leading causes of smog and a contributor to asthma, carbon monoxide, a very deadly toxin in closed spaces, and then formaldehyde, the leading cause of childhood leukemia in the world, from which 1 in 3 children that contract it die from. These researchers found for these three pollutants in these 6,000 homes modeled in Southern California that the levels of these pollutants were higher than allowable ambient air levels. They said if these levels had been found outside, there would be proceedings, fines, and arrests. But because they're in people's homes, there's nothing we can do about it. Some of us have worked on power plants over the years. Power plants all have to have very modern technology, very pollution control modern technology. Any of your stoves have modern pollution control technology? Usually none do. The good news is, induction cooking is increasingly the top choice of chefs. Induction cooking is a type of technology that is not the old coil that we all are thinking of when we're thinking of electric cooking. Induction technology is a fantastic technology, 90% efficient. It uses electromagnetic fields to directly heat the pan within which the food is being cooked. It's being used in the French Laundry, Cafe Pacelli in Ventura, which has represented the United States for the last 5 years in the French pastry competition, the global French pastry competition. Great British Bake Off, Wolfgang Puck, Guy Ferrari, increasingly using this technology in induction cooking. So you may say, okay, that's fine, but I'm not that much of a foodie. You know, I just need to cook my food, I just need something that works and is durable. Well, good news. Consumer Reports also prefers induction. They released their top ranges for 2018 last year. 9 of the top 10 ranges are electric, 5 of the top 10 induction. The only gas range that could break Consumer Reports top 10 is number 10, a gas range coming in at $3,000, scoring a low of 81 on their scale. So induction is great because the reason chefs love it is because you have more control. You can immediately ramp up the power of induction cooking, and you have total control of the temperature. point where you can cook chocolate with just one pan rather than having to use multiple pans. The electric burns power. It's much faster than gas, incredibly powerful, 90% of the energy going directly into the pan. It's cooler, so you have less venting and less of a hot kitchen. It's safer. Ask any chef who's worked for more than 10 years at a commercial restaurant to pull back their sleeves. You also have scars from all the burns. Much safer and lower temperature as it's directly going into the pan. It's easier to clean, just a glass top. You wipe, you're not digging in through all the different pieces of your gas stove, and as you can see, it improves relationships. But you say, well, my community, we have a bunch of people that cook, traditional foods in a wok. Don't worry, we have wok-shaped induction stoves for you. You say, yes, but tortillas, a lot of folks in my family and in my community, don't worry. Through griddles and others, you can cook fantastic tortillas on induction. Pozole is perfect. Because of the control of induction cooking, you can have it at incredibly low temperatures with a much better security than incredibly low temperatures of gas. Quite simply, it's a safer product. You may remember about 2 years ago, the fire in Brooklyn apartment where 18 people died because a 2-year-old climbed up and turned on a gas stove and burned the apartment complex down. You do not have any of the fire danger with induction cooking. You can put your hand directly on the glass just after cooking on induction cooking. So you may say, okay, that's all great, I hear you on all that, I'm not going to give up my stove. The question for all of you working in the space, the question for all of you leading is, you may not need to give up your stove, but every house that we put the stove in means that we have that $6,000 to $15,000 of infrastructure that we need to run to that house, and we're pricing all those families out of being able to afford it. So you may keep your stove, but do we really need to impose that infrastructure and those costs on all of our new homes that we're building across our territory? And so lastly, climate. This is 2 charts just showing the opportunities to zero out emissions from the building sector. These are homes in 2020 to 2045, greenhouse gas emissions coming from electricity and gas, and the promise of moving homes over to run completely on the electricity, that by 2045 we're going to have a zero emission electricity, and so we'll be able to zero out buildings. If you're still running on gas, we're never going to have that opportunity to zero out emissions from the building sector. Now, it's pretty gutsy to have this event in this building. You gotta give you credit. Speaking truth to gas here. So, some people that work in this building may tell you that, don't worry, cows and landfills and wood waste are going to save us. And so, I'd like to draw your attention to a report that one of the leading research firms, Energy and Environmental Economics, E3, did for the Energy Commission last year, where they took a deep dive into the opportunities of biogas. And so here's a chart that just shows the demand and availability of biogas across the bottom, and then the cost of biogas. Right over here is represented by dollars per million BTU. And so I just want to talk to you about some of the realities of biogas. So here's how much our buildings and industry use of natural gas in 2015. Just about 1.6 quadrillion BTUs. Now, say that we, by 2050, completely replace every gas appliance with the highest efficient technology that we're even just thinking of, not even that we have one, we're thinking of. This is how much it can reduce demand for natural gas, even with the growth of population over that time. If we maximize all of our in-state resources for making biogas, this is about how much we can produce right here. Maximizing our landfills, maximizing our dairies, maximizing all of our wood waste and agricultural waste coming out. Now say, what if we took our fair share, our 12% of the rest of the country's biomass, took our population share of that? E3 finds that we can produce about this much. So even taking that fair share, we're still at a massive gap from the availability of biogas to what we're going to need to power our communities. So even if we did everything on biogas, we still absolutely need to have electrification as a place to play in this. And if you're going to have electrification as a place to play, at that point you call into question whether or not you even go on this biogas path for buildings. Because from a cost perspective, with E3 found, we pay about $6 a BTU right now for gas. We pay about 10 for biogas. What politician is going to accept a $60 or $100 somewhere in between price for biogas to power our homes? I can't think of one. And so biogas has a role to play. We do not want biogas escaping from our landfills and our dairies and going up to the environment. Where we need to use it is in places that are going to be hard to electrify, like industry and heavy freight. So if gas doesn't have a place to play in our climate future, then what's going to happen to our gas system? And you're going to see that over the next year with PG&E. PG&E, I'm putting money on it right now, is going to sell their gas assets. And I don't see any situation where the state of California allows PG&E to sell those gas assets without a plan to wind down those gas assets. And so what that means, and what you'll see for SoCal Gas, if we're actually going to be serious about climate, is accelerated depreciation. And what that means is we're going to be closing down infrastructure before its useful life has come up. And the only way we pay off investors for that is increase gas rates. And what do increased gas rates do? It makes it more affordable to electrify. So people hop off, which means there's less people to pay for that infrastructure. So we have to raise rates again, which makes it more affordable for people, and you can see how it starts to spiral. I don't see any situation where we don't end up in a bailout for our gas utilities because of this. There is no place for gas if we're going to meet our climate future, and therefore, we're going to be looking at a situation of accelerated depreciation. So the barriers that you're all going to face here at CPA, in order to really look and across the county, we identified in the roadmap we recently released was low customer awareness. The value proposition for building owners is really not clear at this point. There is low value proposition for contractors and builders, low availability of product, and misaligned policies. Margaret's standing up, so I'm going to skip ahead. Let's take 2 more minutes. Okay. You need to move fast on this. In between now and 2045, we're only going to replace our water heaters on average about 3 times and our space heaters about twice, the average stock turnover. And so it's critical for you to be putting in place programs right now that are going to be able to make sure that those are being replaced by electricity, because we don't have many bites in the apple. 90% of these are installed on failure. It's an emergency situation. You need programs in place so that you can help people make better decisions when they're replacing them. I'll just skip through the good programs that are happening. I always have too much to tell you. I'll just tell you 3 more things. There are now 30 local governments across California that are considering a mandatory REACH code for building decarbonization on January 1st when the new code goes into effect, including those within LA County. I highly recommend you talk to us and others that are working on it. Garrett is being a leader in this place in Santa Monica about joining together as a group of local governments and really putting this in place in our code. We welcome you to work with us. We work on market transformation, consumer inspiration, research, and public policy. Ultimately, you should be doing building decarbonization for all these reasons. It's cheaper, it's more equitable, it's healthier, more climate friendly, and it's safer for your communities. And so I recommend this to you. Adopt policies, codes, fees, whatever you need to do. Improve the value proposition through CPA, through programs of rates, incentives, financing. Engage the supply chain. Kevin's going to come up and talk to Reed in a second. Educate consumers and collaborate with groups like us. This is my son Brooks. We live up in Petaluma with his mother. He's 3 years old. 2 of his autumn seasons, communities have burned down in California. His schools have been closed, and we've been stuck inside for about a week and a half because the air is too sick to be able to leave. These are going to be his earliest memories. So as I thought this fall, as we were stuck inside, and I thought about how are we going to get out of this? How is this not going to be his future that we're leaving? And I came back to this room, and I came back to dedicated communities coming together through partnerships that create greater initiatives be able to give all of our children, all of us, a better future. So thank you so much for having me. I look forward to working with you.
I would like to hold you very pause, but you do have questions. First, though, I want to recognize Diana Wu, who has joined us. Diana Wu is the board chair of the Power Alliance. We're grateful for her attendance today. Now it's my pleasure to introduce Garrett Wong, who is the Senior Sustainability Analyst at the City of Santa Monica. And Garrett wears many hats. One of them is with CPA, the other is he is my board chair at the Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition. So, more of his bio is available on the back of your agenda, and it's my pleasure to introduce Garrett.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's quite dangerous there. As Margaret said, I am the Senior Sustainability Analyst for the City of Santa Monica, and I've been working closely with Panama as well to advance this collaborative effort across the state of California to advance what we're calling an electrification breach code. And so Santa Monica has been very fortunate to have a fairly long legacy of sustainability and leadership. And now we're at a point where we're joining arms and hands with many other jurisdictions across the state and across the county. And we don't want to be a leader anymore. We want to be a partner, and we want to bring along many other jurisdictions along this journey. Because as Pamela pointed out, we don't have a lot of time. And so I really want to build off of Panama's sense of urgency to talk about practical tools that we as local communities need to take up. We can't just sit back on our laurels since we're providing 100% renewable electricity and 50% renewable electricity to our customers. This is really just the beginning. And I hope we're all looking forward to the exciting transition that we can all embark on now that we do have this fantastic tool and platform to work from. But it will come down to local jurisdictions to do this work. We can't just rely on CPA to take care of it all. So I'm really here to speak to the cities and the counties. And I know some of you are not in that space, but you live in those communities as well. And you have the ability to communicate to your elected and to your staff people. Really push them to explore this space. There are communities across Southern California who aren't as well known for the sustainability policies as Santa Monica is. But we really need activists in every community. So I will talk about Santa Monica's leadership though in this presentation and things that you can do. Today we estimate that to be around 20% below 1990 levels in our current carbon emissions inventory. California is also doing a good job of meeting its goals by 2020 and exceeding them. Obviously, the United States is not doing as well. For us, the vehicle transportation sector is the largest sector of greenhouse gas emissions, and that's not a surprise. But building energy use is the next largest sector. And so Clean Power Alliance is helping us to eliminate almost 20% of our carbon emissions by transitioning Santa Monica to 100% green power. So there's a small fraction that will be left in the natural gas side that we do need to address. And this is another look at that same pie chart by bar graph. So to address the vehicles in our community, we have to get people out of the car and into cleaner cars by electric vehicles. We're already addressing our electricity carbon emissions through community choice aggregation, and now we need to look at electrification and potentially biogas opportunities for that sticky amount of natural gas that just cannot be replaced by electric alternatives. So how do we do this? What does a clean energy transition look like? Well, we need to look at primarily our existing buildings because more than 90% of them that are mandates to really incentivize action. We're kind of at a point where we kind of need to be over asking for entry into the doorway. We just need to really mandate it because again, you don't have the time, the luxury to wait at this point. And so I'm going to talk about how we are trying to do various, how we are trying to work in these various efforts, and what we intend to do going forward. So Santa Monica, like I said, has been the leader. We continue to do so by demonstrating that these kinds of technologies and these kinds of designs and strategies are possible in our own city facilities. We're in the process of constructing a new 50,000 square foot central administration building, which we call the City Services Building. And that building will hopefully achieve what we call Living Building Challenge certification. If you're all familiar with LEED, the Living Building Challenge really goes beyond not consuming any energy from the utility grid, basically. Not using any water from the water system, and not creating any wastewater from the building. And so it means we'll be a net zero energy facility. We'll actually be using composting toilets and composting and recirculating most of our water use in the building. We're also not going to be using construction materials that are on the RIP list. But the Living Building Challenge also requires no combustion in the building. So we will have to have an all-electric building. April 2020 is when we hope this building to be open. So we would like to make sure that you all are invited to see what this technology looks like, what the experience is in the building, and what is really possible. City Services Building is being built right behind our historic City Hall. And City Hall itself is going through renovation as well to keep up with the modern office space that we're creating behind it. Before City Hall used to be scattered and really congested on the rooftop with a whole bunch of package units that were just really kind of spindling all over the place. There was really no opportunity to put solar on the City Hall. But we've been slowly going through a process of retrofitting those systems, and we're transitioning over to heat pumps. They're smaller, they're quieter, they're more efficient, more effective, and they're easier to maintain. And our last retrofit will be completed in 2021. We'll be able to claim that City Hall is a fossil fuel-free building as well. Santa Monica has been leading in the policy space when it comes to new construction. We've had in place since 2017 a zero net energy code, which requires that new low-rise residential projects achieve what we call the energy design rating of 0, which essentially means that you're using the energy that you're generating on the site from solar. And we're also made a requirement that commercial buildings have to have a certain amount of solar as well. So we'd like to build on this leadership and really look at the 2020 code as an opportunity to advance what Panama was already mentioning as a potentially all-electric code. And when you go into REACH codes, you have to demonstrate what's called cost effectiveness. The Energy Commission is the kind of last stop that you have to make before your code can go into effect. And the Energy Code determines what cost effectiveness means. And typically it's the cost of the measure or the equipment versus the cost of the savings that the customer will experience over the lifetime of the project. So what is the cost to install an all-electric home and construct it versus what is the cost of what we call a mixed fuel construction, and then what is the cost effectiveness of each. So we hope that other communities are willing to join us. We already have a cost effectiveness study in the works. So all you need to do is essentially cherry pick what performance, what prescriptive measures you would want to have, and start working with your community to get everyone comfortable with the idea that this would be a mandate. And Panama and myself are working with local governments across California to make sure that there are people who have not done REACH code before, who aren't as familiar with electrification, to get on board and join us. Incentives and pricing signals. These are some incentives that are already out in the market, either through Sacramento Municipal Utility or some of the local counties and other water power districts. And so this can kind of give you a preview of what could be possible through Clean Power Alliance. We also have benchmarking requirements for large buildings. Local jurisdictions can also implement benchmarking requirements. They can also implement energy reduction goals for large buildings. They can lower the requirement of how large those buildings are, 50,000 square feet to 20,000 square feet, capture more buildings. Why not make electrification a goal for those buildings as well? That's something that we're looking at, and we will propose in our next climate action plan. Most communities have climate action plans, and I encourage you to look at yours, look at the next opportunity you have to update your climate action plan or your energy action plan, and include electrification policy in those plans. Next Monday, we hope to release the City of Santa Monica's draft climate action adaptation plan, and electrification is a key feature in that plan. You are not alone in this space. We have a national network. We have statewide networks of other jurisdictions who are all working to figure out how do we transition our buildings to become low or net zero carbon. And so I really want to, again, encourage the jurisdictions who tend to be wait and see kind of folks to really come and join us in the front. Thank you.
Join Garrett up on the stage. This is our chance for our audience members to ask questions. Please don't be shy. We only have time for probably 3, maybe 4 questions if you are brief, so are they.
Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I have a question from Panama in regards to the accelerated degree.
Yeah.
And I was wondering, does it mean that we have to target to certain communities that aren't able and industries that aren't able to choose electrification, or is there really no solution for it?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, that I didn't get a chance to talk about. You're absolutely right. The communities that will be left behind in that situation are the ones that are least able to be able to afford electrification. And those are also the ones right now that pay the highest percentage of their income for energy, and the ones that just have the least access to these programs that we all talked about. So thank you for pointing it out, because those are the ones that are going to be hurt the most in this situation that we're looking at. And the other point about accelerated depreciation is every new gas line that we put in just digs a deeper hole. And at some point we have to stop the bleeding. So if we have a future where we can see that coming, then that means that we should be avoiding putting in new gas lines, because it's just going to make that even harder when we face that situation of accelerated depreciation with higher rates. And those are the communities getting hit the hardest. Thank you for that question.
I've heard you mention in the possible solutions maybe about solar system. Is there a role for that?
Yeah, could you please repeat your question?
Restating the question briefly, is there a role for solar thermal?
Yeah, I'll take a run at it. So there's been a lot of research done just to date. I can give you, but what it's looking like now is that with the grid getting as clean as it's getting, 50% renewable next year, and then combining our nuclear plant and our hydro and a very clean gas system, it's an incredibly clean system. And because heat pumps are about 200 to 400% efficient, it actually makes more sense from an energy and an efficiency perspective to use clean electricity to power a heat pump to heat water than to use solar thermal at this point. There are still opportunities, particularly for cool heating and others, but on average, it's going to make more sense at this point for an incredibly efficient heat pump and renewable energy.
Hello, my name is Baka Messina. I'm a homemaker. I am one of those that live in East LA, one of the low income. And thank you for, I don't know how I ended up right here, but thank you. And I know part of this question will go for you, but also if there out there that is from the East LA area. We really need workshops like this in our community. We are the ones that are struggling. And just to answer that question, I am Mexican, I do my tortillas, and I would not mind doing my tortillas. Because I understand the importance. I do live with two, my mom and my mother-in-law. They're Mexican, and you could see them recycling their little things. So they're aware of what's going on. We just need education. So if anybody out there in the East LA area, please, we would like that information.
Thank you. I know that the Clean Power Alliance has what we call a community advisory committee, and I believe there are representatives from the East LA and San Gabriel Valley area. And so it'd be a great opportunity to connect with the community advisory committee. But I think that's the other thing that we didn't really talk about is, or Panama touched on it in terms of affordability, but in terms of equity, we tend to focus a lot of our programs and resources to people who have the ability to take advantage of them, right? It's the single-family homeowner who can afford to put the solar on the rooftop, afford to buy an electric vehicle, and put the electric vehicle charging station in the garage. That's not everybody, and that's particularly not the people who are more impacted and more disadvantaged by both climate change and both the structural and historical racism and environmental injustice that a lot of these people have already experienced. And so we really need to be thoughtful about the policies and the programs that we're crafting to be very targeted at those who would benefit the most and have benefited at least thus far.
So, Robert Parkhurst, I'm on the Community Advisory Committee and in San Gabriel Valley, so be happy to speak with you. But there's other members of the Community Advisory Committee that may also be interested in working with you. So, I recently put a heat pump in my house. One of the challenges, I did this through the California, what's the program? Anyways, the Energy Upgrade California. And they didn't recognize a rebate for it. So first question is there anything that you know that's going on that, or the city's working on that? And the second thing is that the thermostat for the energy upgrade, or for the heat pump, is sticky, but the thermostat really stinks. You can't put a Nest on, you can't put an Ecobee, you can't put any of those on. You have to get I've got pictures of it. It's ugly. And so I think I'd love to know if there are efforts in trying to make it like the Nest and the Ecobee and some of the other technologies that people are really attracted to. So it's the heat pump is a Fujitsu. It's an ARU18 RLF. Well, I know this because I had to be able to get the thermostat to work with it, and the thermostat connection thing is the TSYS unit. Is the name of the company.
I actually installed a heat pump as a carrier, and I've got an Ecobee on. So there are heat pumps out there that will work with the thermostats.
Yeah, so I heard two questions or comments. So one was around the incentive, and the other was around the technology and human interface. So we'll talk about the first one. We have a technology provider here who can probably speak about the thermostat controls issue. So we're kind of talking about a really interesting idea, but it's also very challenged from a financial perspective because the state of California right now has imposed what's called a 3-prong test for anything that should receive a financial incentive. So it has to, any what we call measure, if you're replacing a light bulb, if you're replacing windows or doing some insulation, any measure that you implement has to save energy, it has to save money, and it primarily has to stay in the same fuel kind of stream as what you're saving efficiency for. There's no money right now at the state level or the utility level for fuel switching. And that is a legal battle or a regulatory battle that the Building Decarbonization Coalition, Local Government Sustainable Energy Coalition are bringing to the Energy Commission and the Public Utilities Commission to say, we cannot impose this kind of test or have the same kind of standards if all we're just looking at are these really myopic means of measuring. And so that's why it's also important for community choice aggregation programs like Clean Power Alliance to step in, because they don't necessarily have to go to the Energy Commission or the PUC to create these programs. They don't have to ask permission to do that kind of sense. Cities and counties don't have to do that either. And so, again, it's another one of those things where we need to advocate for those resources at both levels, at the local level and at the state level.
I just had to look to that, Margaret. So that's a huge opportunity for CPA, because if that's what Garrett's talking about is over $1 billion a year we put into energy efficiency. Not a single dollar of that can go to switching from natural gas to electricity, even if it's a significantly more efficient technology. And so Edison will be prevented from doing any fuel switching. The opportunity for you as CPA is to be able to do a fuel switching program on top of an energy efficiency program that Edison has. We already have a model of that up in PG&E territory where Sonoma Green Power and the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, all three of them put in money for a program. So you guys are not restricted on that fuel switching like Edison is. So the opportunity is to put on money on top of the energy efficiency program to be able to do deep efficiency and fuel switching.
Great information. Thank you both. Please join me in thanking our two first speakers. It's now my pleasure to welcome Rachel Moskowitz from the Integral Group, who's going to share a little bit of information about what this is like from the perspective of an implementer. She'll be followed by Kevin Clark from Reed, who have more information about what it's like from the perspective of a manufacturer and what kinds of tools and equipment are available from manufacturers who are doing all electric technology. So please welcome Rachel.
Hi, thanks a lot.
Microphone.
Help. I brought my coffee up here, not because I need additional stimulation, but because I'm freezing. I actually moved from Canada less than a year ago, and like the minute I got off the plane, I was in instant cramp. So if you hear my teeth chatter, that's why. I'm here to talk about, from the practitioner's perspective, some practical tools for making the shift to decarbonization, and also what cities can do to help the design community along. So quickly, who we are a global network of deep green engineers and planners. We're 500 people now across Canada, the US, and England and Australia. On the design side, we have contributed to the design of more than 100 zero net energy buildings. So I'm here to say it's possible. We're already doing it. And then the group that I work with is the Sustainability Planning and Policy Group. And we work with cities, we work with local governments and other communities on developing long-range plans and policy tools to make the transition to carbon-neutral communities. These are some of the projects that we've done recently, including what we call a STEP code in British Columbia, which is essentially a REACH energy code to move cities in British Columbia towards passive house and carbon-neutral decarbonized buildings. And we've developed a number of other standards and long-range plans. Actually, now that equity has been coming up this afternoon, I want to say that interesting story with the work we were doing developing clean energy DC plan. Partly through that work, the director at the Department of Energy and Environment said, you know what, hold up, we've sort of forgotten to take into account the social factor because we've been so focused on this being a data-driven plan. So at that point, us not being experts at the time, we struck a national roundtable on energy and equity to identify what are the issues, what are the potential issues in introducing a long-range energy plan that might either favor certain communities or have adverse effects on other vulnerable communities. And so we went through this process, developed a framework, and then went through all of the proposed actions in that plan and rewrote any of the actions that we saw to potentially introduce those risks to vulnerable communities.
yeah, I want to talk about our experience delivering all electric and zero energy, zero carbon buildings, some of the challenges to developers and the design community, and then talk about ideas and solutions to overcome those barriers, including what local governments can do and also what comes down from the state level. So this is just a simple diagram showing what we're talking about, which is of course 100% electric buildings, where 100% of the electricity needs are being provided by clean energy. What's not in this diagram is, of course, the ongoing and importance of these buildings also being super efficient, high performance buildings. So this is a study recently, or last year, that came out by New Buildings Institute, and this is just to show that it's all happening now. There's been a recent significant dramatic increase in the delivery of zero energy buildings across the country. So we have the skills, we have the technology to begin to deliver these at scale. Where are they built? The numbers here are on zero energy certified buildings, which is not comprehensive in terms of what exists across the country. This includes Canada as well, right? But this is kind of a field of reflection to say that more than half of these emerging net zero buildings are in California. So again, you know, for leading the way, we need to take some more major leaps, I think. So designing for decarbonization. I actually checked in with my engineers and design team saying, I think I'm going to get the question at today's event around what kinds of subsidies or assistance have we received that has enabled us to deliver the 100% electric and net zero buildings that we have delivered. And he said, actually none. But what we did do was work closely and early on with architects. We're not afraid to think outside of the box, and we've been able to deliver these buildings at no cost premium. So sort of these are some rules of thumb, and I won't get into the super technical, but the top two I would say are speaking to passive design. So using the architecture of the building to take advantage of natural daylight, natural ventilation, heating and cooling, reducing the need for reliance on the mechanical systems. The next two are looking at the systems design, so decoupling ventilation and heating and cooling systems. If you separate them out, there's a lot of efficiencies to be gained there. And then effective management of your electrical energy. So once you've done all that, reduce significantly the demand for electricity on a building. You can then right-size a renewable energy system and, of course, save cost on the solar or other energy source. This is just sort of a show and tell of some California these are all 100% electric, net zero buildings that we are working on or have completed, and just different kinds of buildings, from institutional to office to healthcare. So the focus is on what are the barriers to decarbonization from the perspective of industry. So these bullet points did not come out of my head. We were hired months ago by the city of San Jose, who had just completed their climate smart San Jose, so their climate action plan, and are really committed to delivering 100% electric net zero buildings. So they hired us to talk to industry about, hey, what barriers have you encountered already in trying to deliver high performance buildings, and what do you need from the city in order to address those barriers? So the barriers sort of fall into 4 categories: awareness, acceptance, availability, affordability. Similar to Panama's roadmap, maybe just a sort of a reshuffle of the same category. So what we heard from them is lack of awareness. There's a low number, of course, increasing number, but people are not aware that sometimes these buildings already exist in your backyard. So people need to know more. There are some sort of unknowns around what the future potential impact of increasing electric vehicle charging demand will have to compete with the zero net emission equation.
There is just a general reluctance to change. We've been doing it this way for so many years. Yada yada. So it's just a steep learning curve in terms of having to adopt new technologies and new ways of thinking about designing buildings. The cooking with gas is a big issue, as we know. We heard from Panama. So availability, the relative scarcity of equipment in our local markets, of course, this is evolving rapidly as we speak. Lack of cost-effective, sophisticated microgrid control systems, pretty specific. Affordability, so as I said, we've been able to deliver these buildings at conventional cost, but for other teams that it may be their first time trying to design a building in a different way, there is a learning curve. There's probably additional costs associated with that. There's also the fact that when we're doing the math on buildings, there's a focus on the first cost rather than the paybacks and the life cycle costs of these buildings with the renewable energy systems. The fluctuating but sometimes relatively low cost of gas can be an affordability issue, and then finally cost of storage and microgrid technology, which will hopefully continue to evolve. So when we talk about market transformation and transforming to a built environment that's decarbonized and a new way of designing buildings, we know that there's not just one way or one tool that will get us there. So aggressive state regulation isn't going to just magically transform our built environment overnight. So we always talk about how there needs to be this combination of all these 5 factors, including good data. So the building energy benchmarking ordinances are teaching us a lot about how our buildings use energy. The regulations, of course, incentives to help people overcome the issues with the learning curve, education and training, so the industry capacity building, and then demonstration projects, and also recognition programs. So all these tools in tandem can help transform more rapidly and us toward where we need to go. And so in addressing these areas that were that have been identified by the San Jose industry among others, these are some of the solutions that they came up with and that were recommended to the city. So they wanted to see lots of people saying we need to see how it's done. So they were proposing we need tours, we need case studies, we need to understand how these design decisions were made, what were the costs associated, how in the real world have these buildings been able to be constructed here in California. The cities can help use their websites and other communication to point to resources as well. Education, so on the acceptance piece, we need education, we need cities to help explain the value proposition, and then there's increasing advocacy around induction cooking, which I was going to do a whole spiel about, but I didn't realize we had the spokes model for induction cooked up here in the room, so I will jump ahead here. And then in terms of availability and accessibility barriers, something that came up quite a bit in the focus groups that we were doing was for project teams that are thinking that are coming to City Hall with a proposed 100% electric net zero project. They're saying we need to know that when we go to the permitting office, that somebody there is going to be speaking the same language and understand what we're proposing. We need to know that they will recognize these technologies, and there's not going to be barriers within City Hall to our ability to deliver these kinds of projects. So they said, so the recommendation is that cities in their permitting department need to also build capacity and understanding, that there be a project advocate or facilitator at City Hall that can help shepherd these permit applications through and ideally actually expedite them. Similarly, the city process for new projects and technologies, and then the city should adopt stretch energy code. On the affordability side, power purchase agreements are one approach to overcoming the first cost of solar systems, incentives and grants for electrification for electric powered heat, appliances, battery storage microgrids, that they're targeting LEED goals. They could also be offering additional floor area to buildings coming in, saying they'll be 100% electric and/or net zero. And then at the state level, we are supportive of requirements for all buildings to be zero net energy and requiring, and then the postal benchmarking ordinance, as I mentioned, and then future or code requirements for new construction of major remodels, including requirements for the required use of electrically powered heating appliances.
So we'll hold our questions to the end. Both of the speakers will bring them back over.
Perfect. Thanks for having me out. I made it through still apocalypse coming out here from Las Vegas, so the mere threat of snow caused a lot of flight cancellations. I didn't take the $800. I'm here today to talk about water use and of course HVACs with you all. So first I would like to say I'm very proud. Coming from Reed, we just announced our sustainability message on the marketplace and the greater degree of good messaging that we have out there. And we have initiatives planned out to 2025 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in our production facilities by 50%. With that, we're also going to have a goal of zero landfill impact production, as well as probably the most ambitious goal is to train about 250,000 contractors in the market, both in HVAC and plumbing, on sustainable products that they can go and sell, and of course help save the world. Right? Thank you. So really, how does Reed set themselves aside from other manufacturers? Is that we touch both the HVAC industries as well as the water heating industry. And really when the consumer opens up their bill every single month, we touch nearly 2/3 of that, both in those two product lines with HVAC and water heating. So if we can make some drastic improvements in efficiency, obviously there's a reduction in energy usage for the homeowner. So coming from the water heater side, I'm going to focus more on the heat pump water heaters. There's probably already been a lot of exploration on heat pump HVAC, but if you have questions, certainly reach out. So we're talking about heat pump water heaters today. These energy guide tags, normal consumers are familiar with them. Doesn't really apply too much in California because energy rates here are not the national average of 12 cents a kilowatt hour, but I put them up there just to demonstrate the energy reduction by going to a heat pump water heater. Again, the consumer is going to save over 70% by moving to this type of technology if they have an electric water heater today. Of course, California loves solar panels, so not everybody has the roof space to put a standard electric water heater on there. This will cut the solar panel usage by about 7.5. Again, just a simple demonstration showing that the energy reduction is real, and the homeowner can put up enough solar panels on the roof without paving their sidewalks and carports and everything else with panels in order to supply energy for their home. This is from the EPA website. I understand that California has a little bit greater profile in its energy production, but I just wanted to demonstrate really what the impact of switching from electric water heater to a heat pump water heater has as far as some of the carbon dioxide output from the utility perspective. Just by switching from this product line, you're removing nearly 2 tons a year from the air, which is the equivalent of driving about 5,000 miles. So it's, again, big impact, pretty good visuals. So how it works, Emily, you kind of stole my thunder on this one. But it's basically we're just, exchanging that heat from ambient temperature. The process of moving heat, not creating heat, allows our product to get to 307% efficient. So I know it sounds magical. How do you get over 100% efficiency? It's because we're just moving heat around. So again, that air is passed through the top portion of it. It runs through an evaporator. It gets condensed and superheated, and then that heat is transferred down to the bottom heat exchanger coils. That's how the heat pump is so efficient, because it's only running at about 300 to 500 watts, while it's producing the equivalent of about 1,700 watts. Pretty familiar, right? This is a technology that's well over 100 years old. Everybody uses it in their homes and in their cars today. Same refrigerant as your refrigerator at home, usually your car. So there's a familiarity with it from customers. Aspect of it from a contractor perspective, we noticed that there was a big barrier in having plumbers install heat pump water heaters because they're not HVAC certified. We removed that objection, saying if anything goes wrong with our sealed system, we're just going to replace the unit. That way you don't have to rely on the HVAC industry in order to service these units. Some of the other things that we approached the market and got feedback on, obviously a consumer wants hot water. Buying a hot water heater makes sense. So we actually deliver more hot water than standard electric water heaters by putting in 5,000 watt stainless steel elements. That's in addition to the heat pump, which again is the equivalent of about 1,700 watt recovery. So in high demand mode, we're getting nearly 7,000 watts of recovery. Traditional electric water heaters have about 4,500 watts. So we have a significant increase in the amount of hot water that's delivered. We also put some nice features in there, including leak detection. Anybody that's had a flooded garage, flooded basement knows the value of that. Getting that early notification. What good is that if you don't have notification? We put a Wi-Fi chip that's built into the board, provided a free app to the consumer. That way they can get these service alerts as well as full controllability on their phone. In addition, they can get some energy savings reports to figure out how much they're saving on a monthly basis. We currently already work with Nest and Wink. We're looking to integrate with some other technologies as well, some other home automation companies, as well as our proprietary EcoNet, which is Reed's version of thermostats, as well as communication applications for our higher-end water heating products. So we continue to develop that. Kind of like airbags and Cadillacs 30 years ago, it's going to continue to go down the line. So every single water heater eventually will be EcoNet enabled, which gives the consumer and the utilities access to these water heaters in the future. So how are some utilities utilizing these water heaters? Well, they simply kind of use them as a battery. In the Midwest, it's been pretty popular for decades to shut this water heater off for say 3 to 5 or 3 to 8 p.m. In order to shave some of that peak off the load. But here in California, with some of the excess solar production in the middle part of the day, they're utilizing this as a great asset. So this is a situation with peak shaving. You can see that we're just going to switch the water heater to heat pump only mode. Again, only burning about 300 watts instead of firing that 5,000 watt element. And you can see that it will have an impact in every single home with a heat pump water heater. Again, those over solar production times today where you get into negative utility rates, instead of paying Arizona or other areas of the country to take excess power off the grid, you can actually park that energy into the heat pump water heater, superheat it, put a mixing valve on the water heater. That way, there's no stalling liability to the consumer. And output at 120 degrees, and you can store about 1.5 kilowatts of power in every single home. So We look at the value of Tesla batteries or other electric storage systems. This is obviously a cleaner, cheaper way to get there. You already need a water heater. And again, grid emergencies with the right applications, again, oversizing capacity on the water heaters. You can shut this off for long periods of time and never affect consumer comfort. So most demand response programs that utilities implement are messing with the thermostats in the home. Obviously, if you mess with consumer comfort, the retention rates go down. If you mess with the water heater, control it, consumer will never know you're messing with it. So it is a valuable grid asset that a lot of utilities are starting to get on. So those examples of ATS, again, they're taking that power from California that's basically being paid a ticket. They're parking in the heat pump water heaters. They're putting 80-gallon heat pump water heaters in order to maximize that storage capabilities. Alabama Smart Neighborhood is having community solar power these water heaters. Again, they're parking energy in the middle part of the day. So this is an asset that lots of utilities are starting to approach and be able to put in their whole profile for grid assets, distributed energy resource management. So when we're talking about how does contractor approach a consumer on the payback, it's got a great payback story. It's 370% efficient. So this is usually a story-driven sale. As long as you talk about it, it usually will kind of sales pretty good. So if they're installing a typical heat pump water heater for $3,000 instead of a $1,500 unit that includes installation and labor, you're going to get an upgrade sale of about $1,500. Reduce any kind of rebates that are in there. Again, there was some rebates in order. It's $3,000 in order to switch from a gas water heater to a heat pump water heater. So that pretty much covers the cost of the unit and the installation to run that 240, 30 unit service over to the water heater. So again, contractors are getting on that. They're getting neighborhoods talking about free water heaters. When we said yeah. And then of course, the energy savings, the EE programs that have been written off of the energy savings are very good. 30 cents a kilowatt hour is probably a little bit on the higher end, but if some homeowners are hitting that top tier, that's probably very likely. These are also again programmable, so as time of use starts to roll out, we want to make sure that the value proposition is there to program these water heaters for the consumer. That way they're only using 16 cents a kilowatt hour instead of 45. So California, again, about a $5,600 payback. That's better than any 401k payback you're ever going to get. So, it's a pretty good value proposition going from electric to heat. Similar payback story from our propane customers in the outskirts of town. Propane's expensive, so it has a pretty quick payback. We certainly encourage our contractors to talk about this product line, but almost be a disservice not to. You're probably facing California. How is it? Most markets I can go in and say the heat pump water heater is going to save you more money, both in installation, time, and effort, as well as your utility bill. But in this market, the least efficient product has the lowest lifetime cost. This is where we need your help in order to flip that. Again, a little bit of this is going to be reduced as time of use rates roll out. For this type of product, will utilize those lower rates. So again, those lifetime costs will be reduced. Again, this is with no rebates that are in place. So they asked me to talk about some successful programs. Efficiency Maine probably has the highest concentration of heat pumps going out, about 30%. Obviously, different market. That is generally replacing a lot of heating oil water heaters, so it's very expensive replacement. So this has a good payback cost or payback story for that replacement. Also, it is a statewide program, so it's very simple for everybody to understand. The reporting is minimalized because you don't have to worry about leakage, so it's something to consider in your programs partnering up with other utilities. NEA also produces or installs over 10,000 units a year in their market. They've had some hiccups along the line. You know, they kind of pitched their pony to intergenerate at first, which unfortunately had some disastrous service and eventually went out of business. They went with GeoSpring after that. I'm a reformed GE employee, so I was involved with that as well. And of course, last year their upstream rebates to the manufacturer passed through to wholesale and retail one way. So there's been some hiccups in the market that have, really made those contractors shy away from this product. Where it hasn't shied away is in new construction. A lot of that is code driven. That stick always works better than the carrot, right? So in new construction, builders, even in mixed fuel homes, are realizing that heat pump water heaters are cheaper to install. Less trades touch them. You don't have to have anybody do ventilation on these units. So it is a clear-cut winner in a lot of new construction applications in Washington. So that's what I have.
Great, thank you.
If Rachel will come back up to the stage, we'll have a few minutes to ask questions. But to keep us on track for today, let's keep our questions brief. We have time for 2 or 3 questions. Who would like to ask a question?
This is kind of a bit of a random question, but are any entrepreneurs out there installing heat pumps, water heaters, by installing it for free and doing some sort of shared savings model?
Yeah, there are some that will, basically pay themselves by the rebate. You'll see that more in new construction because the installation cost barrier is lower. So, to run in new construction a 30 and 240 volt electrical line to the water heater, it might cost $200 in new construction. When you have an electrician come and put in a new breaker and run that same line, for some reason it's $1,500. So there's, really depends on the situation and what rebates are in the marketplace. But yeah, there are some companies that pay themselves off of rebates. They package deals together, both with installation, lighting, water heating, and HVAC.
That's really exciting to hear about the commitment to train. The contractors are whereabouts in the country is that going to go, and what shares coming to LA?
Well, Marine has dedicated 6 innovative learning centers throughout North America. We have one in Oxnard. We just had the grand opening last month. So in that, there's a live fire booth. It's at the RAPAC manufacturing facility. So we have up to 4 million BTUs of the boiler system that we can fire up, as well as live fire training on all electric products. So in that, we pretty much go from a very basic training to get them, familiarized with what Marine has to offer, but also we get really into the specifics. We have, 3D goggles that you can actually look into a unit in order to fix it without actually tearing it over.
Can you talk about applications for large commercial? I know we talk a lot about domestic, but you have a lot of large buildings that have large boiler systems, pools, things like that.
So, we do have, RAPAC does have a line of heat pump pool heaters. We do not currently have a heat pump commercial product for domestic hot water yet. Demand has never really been. As we all know, in California, about 60% of multifamily units have some sort of centralized boiler system. So they are kind of Frankensteining, some of these, residential units together, like the standard unit, and try to stack them up at, 5 or so at a time to try to produce enough hot water for the building. we've been at a lot of these, decarbonization meetings, and I think all manufacturers have a flavor for whatever the market needs. If the market's out there, the manufacturers will fill that need.
Okay, last question.
I was actually just curious about the tank comparison of the tank this far here. Could you go back to that?
Oh, are you talking about the overall cost? This one? Okay. Now again, these are, a lot of the installation things are variable. So it really just depends if we need to bring up that installation up to code. Some codes require a 3/4 inch gas line in order to install tankless, which, most of the stock have half inch. So, it's really going to be quite variable. But what a normal consumer, what a normal contractor are going to recommend are, what you have is what you get for the replacement. So, it's kind of a shame because when consumers walk into Home Depot and they just see a lineup of good, better, best product, they will choose the better product at a 500% likelihood over what a contractor is going to recommend to the customer. Even though the contractor has shown that has an 80% say of what unit goes into that install, they choose to usually do the baseline model all the time. So we're trying to change that.
Before we transition to our breakout, I have a quick question for Rachel, so MC's prerogative here. As Integral Group has worked with architects and local jurisdictions to implement zero-net energy buildings, in the trades and in the jurisdictions where you put those buildings, what are some impediments that you've seen? Like, where are there some low spots, either in knowledge about awareness, skill, or access to resources and information you think would be low-hanging fruit, easy places where we could give that process a boost?
That's a bit of a tough one for me because I don't work on the design side. So it's a bit specific in terms of,
But maybe just in your experience, in your awareness.
well, in my experience, I think there's a lack of literacy altogether around this. And so some of those sort of one-on-one guides for all trades, all sort of specialties.
Decarbonization for dummies.
Do we want to call it that?
But the practical guide, like the blue yellow book that says the basic steps, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that's something that's not even there. So yeah, and then getting it out there. That's always kind of a challenge. Is how do you get at all those small shops to raise the level of awareness? So in all our communities, it's challenging.
Please join me in giving our speakers a hand.